look out here. Momentum. Oh, man! God. And a huge...
The Undertaker famously went undefeated in 21 straight WrestleMania matches. He didn't lose all that much on other shows either. When he did take a loss, it was a big deal, and these particular defeats left fans speechless. As 1994 began, the WWF Championship was held by the fearsome Yokozuna. He defeated Hulk Hogan for the title at King of the Ring 1993, and in the months that followed, he tore through names including Lex Luger, Crush, and Bret Hart. By the start of 1994, he found himself in the sights of The Undertaker, who wanted the WWF Championship for himself. The two powerhouses would meet at the 1994 Royal Rumble pay-per-view in one of Taker's signature matches, a casket match. It seemed like this would be a layup for The Undertaker. The match could only end when one man was tossed in a ringside casket with the lid shut over them. Aware of his client's disadvantage, Yokozuna's manager, Mr. Fuji, enlisted the help of Bam Bam Bigelow, Diesel, Atom Bomb, Jeff Jarrett, and more to take out The Undertaker. It took 10 men to lay the Phenom out in the center of the ring, making it easy for Yokozuna to place him in the casket, shut the lid, and win the match. Taker wouldn't appear on WWF programming again until August, though before he left, he'd let fans know via the Titantron that he had no intention of resting in peace. At WrestleMania XXX, The Undertaker defeated Psycho Sid for the WWF Championship. With that, his dark reign atop the mountain began, which saw him defeat such challengers as Mankind and Vader as 1997 continued. August rolled around, and with it, SummerSlam, where Bret the Hitman Hart was set to challenge Taker for the title. The match also had a special guest referee, Hart's bitter rival, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Michaels and Hart had continued their feud heading into the bout, making Taker more of an afterthought in the overall story. Nevertheless, Hart was determined to take the championship, putting up a fight only he could. The Undertaker battled back, but couldn't quite seal the victory thanks to HBK. As the match came to a close, Hart grabbed a chair and attacked The Undertaker with it. A furious Michaels took the weapon from him and began berating him, prompting Hart to spit on him. Michaels swung the chair, Hart ducked, Taker took steel to the skull, and Hart used the miscalculation to score the pinfall. Shawn Michaels' retirement match against The Undertaker at WrestleMania XXX was the perfect send-off for the showstopper. For 9 years, it seemed like Michaels would actually stay retired.
I didn't want to screw it up. I mean, it was important to me.
However, in 2018, Triple H and The Undertaker found themselves in one last in-ring feud that started at Super Showdown in Australia. The Game won the match, but the war was far from over. In the weeks that followed, Triple H and Michaels reformed D-Generation X to oppose Taker and his demonic brother Kane. In a match no one expected to see, DX and the Brothers of Destruction met for a tag team match at Crown Jewel in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. It was an absolute disaster. Triple H tore his right pectoral muscle early in the match, Kane's mask fell off during a scrap with Michaels, and there was one botched move after another. Triple H's injury left Michaels to fend for himself for much of the match, which dragged on for nearly half an hour. Somehow, Michaels and the injured Triple H got the better of The Undertaker and Kane in the end. Fans couldn't help but scratch their heads over the Brothers of Destruction's loss here. They had D-Generation X on the ropes for nearly the entire match, yet they couldn't get the job done. In early 2006, SmackDown viewers got their first look at the Great Khali, a mountain of a man standing well over 7 feet tall and weighing around 400 pounds. Was he the most graceful or technically gifted competitor to ever enter a WWE ring? Certainly not, but that didn't stop him from making a beeline for one of his real-life inspirations, The Undertaker, upon debuting on the main roster. A match between the two behemoths was set for Judgment Day 2006. In the build to Judgment Day, the Great Khali made his in-ring debut on the April 17th edition of SmackDown, quickly defeating Funaki. From there, he crushed more opponents. When he and the Dead Man finally met, the latter did his best to chop his massive opponent down to size. However, Khali's power and the intervention of his manager, Daivari, proved too much for the Phenom to handle. In under 10 minutes, Khali defeated The Undertaker. The Undertaker later got his revenge, and as time went on, the Great Khali slipped further and further down the card, turning out to be yet another failed WWE main event experiment. But he did deliver that one shocking loss to The Undertaker.
Michaels! Swing 10! Music! There's no disqualifications!
The Undertaker defeated CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship at Hell in a Cell 2009. Walking into the 2010 Elimination Chamber more than prepared to take down Chris Jericho, John Morrison, R-Truth, Punk, and Rey Mysterio. But things didn't work out for him. Not only did his own pyro infamously burn him during his entrance, he also lost his title. For the better part of the match, it seemed like The Undertaker was on the path to victory. One by one, the other competitors were eliminated until it came down to Taker and Jericho. As he closed in on victory, the dead man was blindsided by Shawn Michaels, who surprised everyone by sneaking into the match through a floor grate. One sweet chin music later, Y2J was the new World Heavyweight Champion. Michaels' interference led to his retirement match with Taker at WrestleMania XXX. As The Undertaker wound down his wrestling career, his time on WWE programming diminished significantly. For the most part, he'd only appear during WrestleMania season, building a feud that would culminate in a match at that year's event. When the road to WrestleMania 33 began, however, Taker took a different route to the grandest stage of them all. He entered the 2017 Royal Rumble match with his eyes set on a World Championship bout at WrestleMania. But then, Roman Reigns eliminated him. Angered over the elimination, The Undertaker challenged the big dog to a match at WrestleMania 33. Reigns accepted, and even though there wasn't a title on the line, it was the night's main event. Reigns brought the fight to his supernatural opponent, and after a litany of spears and Superman punches, he pinned The Undertaker in the center of the ring.
It's bittersweet. It almost feels like a loss, you know what I mean?
As fans looked on in shock, The Undertaker left his gloves, hat, and coat in the ring to close out the show. It seemed that this was his final goodbye from WWE, which, of course, didn't turn out to be the case. Still, seeing Taker lose in such decisive fashion was surprising to witness. The night after WrestleMania 12, WWF fans met the frightening new character Mankind. Clad in a leather mask, he squashed Bob Sparkplug Holly in his first televised match in the promotion, employing a ferocity WWF viewers hadn't seen before. From there, he wasted little time taking the fight to The Undertaker. The two crossed paths a few times as the months went on, though their first actual match, the first ever Boiler Room Brawl, didn't take place until SummerSlam 1996. As the name indicates, the match began within the confines of a boiler room before spilling out to other parts of the arena. The match would only end when one of the competitors secured the enigmatic urn held by Taker's longtime manager, Paul Bearer. The two competitors inevitably made their way to the ring, and it looked like The Undertaker had the match in the bag. But then, the unthinkable happened. Bearer turned on him and aligned with Mankind, offering him the urn and with it, the victory. Mankind and Undertaker's rivalry continued, climaxing with the most memorable Hell in a Cell match of all time. But it's also hard to forget Bearer turning his back on Taker, causing the dead man to lose and leaving him on his own for the first time. The Undertaker made his WWF debut at Survivor Series 1990, helping the $1 Million Team defeat Dusty Rhodes' Dream Team. Just over a year later at Survivor Series 1991, he captured his first of many WWF championships. The Undertaker's first televised title defense took place at This Tuesday in Texas in December 1991 against Hulk Hogan, the man from whom he won the title. The two future Hall of Famers battled it out for just over 13 minutes. And just like that, Taker's first reign was over in under a week. A Nature Boy Ric Flair run-in, a handful of ashes thrown into The Undertaker's eyes, and a tight roll-up all contributed to the loss. One can't help but wonder if Hogan's claim that the up-and-coming Taker hurting his neck during their first title match dashed his chances at a longer reign.
It really wasn't explained to me what the reasoning was behind it.
The Undertaker had a chance to kick off another WWE Championship reign at No Mercy 2003 when he met Brock Lesnar in a biker chain match. But he didn't count on the interference of Mr. McMahon, who ensured Lesnar held onto the title. Angered by this turn of events, Taker defeated both Lesnar and The Big Show in a handicap match on SmackDown, and was thus allowed to choose his opponent for Survivor Series. That opponent was Mr. McMahon himself, and the match was to be a buried alive match. Vince McMahon has had a few matches, but he isn't a wrestler. He's only really good at taking a beating, and at Survivor Series 2003, that's what he did. The Undertaker absolutely demolished McMahon, rendering him a bloody mess mere moments into the bout. But Mr. McMahon was ultimately saved by an intervening party. Kane emerged and began attacking The Undertaker, heaving him into a pre-dug grave and practically spoon-feeding McMahon the win. This loss would build to Taker and Kane's match at WrestleMania 20. After losing to Bret Hart at SummerSlam 1997 as a result of Shawn Michaels' actions, Taker continued to keep an eye on Michaels, culminating in a match between him and the Heartbreak Kid at In Your House Ground Zero to determine who would become the #1 contender for Hart's title. The match ended in a double disqualification, so a rematch for the #1 contendership was set for In Your House Bad Blood. To prevent any outside shenanigans, The Undertaker and Michaels met inside Hell in a Cell, the first such match in WWF history. This massive, threatening cage seemed like a second home to the dead man, and that only grew more apparent as he used it to annihilate HBK. The bloodied Michaels took nasty bump after nasty bump, even falling from high up on the outer wall through the announce table. It looked like Taker vs. Hart was all but confirmed for Survivor Series 1997, but then the lights went out. Under red lights and surrounded by flames, WWF audiences got their first look at Kane, The Undertaker's brother once thought to be dead. The red and black-clad monster tore the door off of the cell, hit his sibling with a tombstone piledriver, and left Shawn Michaels with a winning opportunity.
For a triple! A third F5 to The Undertaker!
When looking back on The Undertaker's WWE legacy, it's impossible not to bring up his WrestleMania undefeated streak. Beginning with his victory over Jimmy Superfly Snuka at WrestleMania 7 in 1991, Taker would make the Showcase of the Immortals his stomping ground. Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, Triple H, CM Punk, and more all failed to defeat him in Mania matches, instead adding their names to the long list of foes the dead man overcame. By early 2015, his streak had extended to a staggering 21 straight wins, and it stood to reason he'd retire undefeated at Mania. Heading into WrestleMania 30, The Undertaker returned to WWE programming to build a feud against his would-be opponent on the show. For the first time ever, he and Brock Lesnar would square off at WrestleMania, and when the night came, the Beast Incarnate didn't hold back. He wasted no time bringing the fight to Taker, who turned out to be concussed for much of the match. The Phenom couldn't fully swing the momentum in his favor. With one final F5 into a cover, fans everywhere expected your typical dramatic near fall, as was tradition in streak matches. Not this time, though.
I showed up that day thinking I was going over, and it changed the day of.
Brock Lesnar pinned The Undertaker clean, making his opponent's WrestleMania record 21-1. A hush fell over the thousands of fans in attendance at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans as everyone tried to comprehend what had just happened. With Lesnar gone, a shaken Taker got to his feet and the crowd gave him a well-deserved standing ovation. On this night, history was made, and The Undertaker was handed the single most unexpected loss of his entire career.